So you want to buy a house in Florida and you don't want to spend any money of your own to do it? You're in luck. Today we're going to be going over how to buy a house in Florida with no money of your own, specifically utilizing the Florida Hometown Heroes program. And if you stick around to the very end, I'll let you know how I did this myself and how I fared and how much money I ended up spending versus not spending to get into my first house back in March of 2023. So let's get into it right now. So like I said, today I'm going to be going over how to buy a house in Florida with no money of your own. It sounds a little bit far-fetched, sounds a little bit um, scammy, you might say, but there is a way to do it to spending literally no money, but more realistically, very little of your own money to get into a house of your own. And that's utilizing the Hometown Heroes program. The Hometown Heroes program has been around for a couple of years or a few years now. In July of this year, so July of 2023, they actually expanded the program and increased the loan limit from it from 25 grand to 35 grand. And then they also changed it so instead of having to be one of the normal hero jobs, healthcare workers, paramedics, police, military, those type of jobs, school teachers, things like that. They expanded it to anyone working full time with a Florida-based employer. So that opens the program up to a whole lot more people. So you're definitely going to want to take advantage of this program before all the funds run out for this program. How does the Hometown Heroes program work? Where does that money come from? So it's funded by the state. It comes in the form of a 30-year non-amortizing loan for the house. So you're not making any payments on it. You don't have anything due until you sell the house, you refinance, it's no longer your primary residence, you rent it out, something like that, and then you owe the money back. But until that point, it's really a great program. You just pay it back when you sell. So as long as your home goes up in value or it stays the same, you're fine. And even if your home goes down a little bit in value, there's some weird recession that goes on, and when you have to sell, you're going to have built equity in your house to hopefully cover that. So you should be good. Either way, it's still better than renting. Even if there's a recession going on, you have to sell during a recession. Still better than renting because you're still building some equity in that house. And there are income limits and loan limits in place for this program. So like I mentioned earlier, you can borrow up to 35 grand. That's the total amount, but that amount comes from 5% of your loan. So if your loan amount is 400,000, then the amount from the program that you're going to get is 20 grand. And then depending on which county you live in, there is an income cap and a loan cap. So the most expensive county is down in the Keys. That's where the caps are the highest. Here in the Treasure Coast, they're all really the same for Indian River, St. Lucie County, and Martin County, with the exception of Indian River County has a lower loan limit. You can get some cheaper houses up there. It's really pretty similar to St. Lucie County. It's really not too much different there. So the income limit for all three of these counties here in the Treasure Coast is 128,250, and that seems to be the income limit throughout most of the state, throughout most counties when I look through the list, with some being a little higher and some being. Actually, I don't know if there's any lower than that. I can check though. Don't fact check or don't take my word for it. There might be some lower than that. And then the loan limit for St. Lucie County and Martin County is 500,250, and for Indian River County is $472,030. So you have a $28,000 difference between Indian River and St. Louis County and Martin County for those ones. So who qualifies for this program? There's a couple things you need to do. You need to be full-time employee in Florida by an employer based in Florida. You need to work at least 35 hours a week, so full-time, right? You need to have a 640 credit score, which isn't too bad, depending on what's been going on in your life. And then this either has to be your first home or you haven't owned a home in a period greater than 3 years. So if you haven't owned a home in 3 years, the market kind of went crazy, things happened, you sold your house 3 years ago when COVID hit, now you're looking to buy again, you're still in luck. You can still get in on this program, which is awesome. The best way to figure out, what all applies for you and what all you qualify for is to reach out to a lender. I have a preferred lender down in the description. You can go there and find that preferred lender. If you have a lender you're already like working with, reach out to them. The really good thing about the Hometown Heroes program is the rate is set. So no matter which lender you go to, you're going to get the same rate. So go to a lender that communicates good and that you like, because it doesn't matter what the rate is at the end of the day, or which lender you go to for the rate, because the rate's going to be the same. So how does this work? Let's put it in actual numbers, actual kind of scenario for here in Port St. Lucie. And this works throughout Florida, not just here in the Treasure Coast. The program is nationwide, or not nationwide, statewide, funded by Governor DeSantis and other things. So the average price of a home here in Port St. Lucie is $400,000. So instead of asking for a reduction in the price, so say you want to get the house for, cheaper or whatever. And so instead of asking, you try to negotiate, will you accept 380 and try and go that route. So if you're trying to get a house for no money out of pocket, so you're going to negotiate and say, hey, how about we offer you 400 as long as it appraises for 400. You need that appraisal contingency in there. But how about the seller pays buyer's closing costs? There's on a $400,000 house, there's what, $7,000, $8,000 right there. So buyer or seller pays buyer's closing costs. So there you don't owe closing costs. And the Hometown Heroes, if you're doing all of that going towards your down payment, which would be a 5% down payment, there's $20,000 there towards your down payment. Closing costs are paid. Now here's where it gets a little bit sticky. So in theory it works. In actuality, it's going to be really hard to find someone to do it. When you put an offer in on a house, you always offer earnest money. Lets the seller know you have skin in the game, you're serious about the offer. To have no money out of pocket going to the house, you would have to offer no earnest money. There might be some person out there who might accept that. It's not likely. I think any realtor is going to tell the seller, hey, they're not serious, don't accept this offer, let's go with another offer. They'd have to be really desperate to accept an offer with no earnest money. But I'm not saying it couldn't happen. And then you'd also have to have the seller pay for the inspection and the appraisal, because both those come from the buyer side as well. Not likely to happen. Maybe the inspection, I don't know. Typically the buyer pays for that. I suppose if you had a seller who really needed to sell fast, they might pay for it for you, because inspection's what, a few $100. Get a really good inspector, it's $500. Depending on the size of the house. And then the appraisal is a couple $100. So, at the end of the day, you really could be no money out of pocket. But in actuality, how it's more likely to work is you get the seller to pay for the buyer's closing costs, $7,000. And, sellers, I think, would much rather do that rather than come $10,000 off their price. And then the Hometown Heroes pays for your down payment. So there's your down payment and your closing costs paid for. And out of pocket, really all you're paying for is your inspection, your earnest money, and your appraisal, which really isn't bad. For earnest money, all you need to put in, depending on the price of the house, anywhere up to 5%. We only put in like $3,500 in earnest money in the house that we got in March of 2023. So, as long as you put something there, it has more validity to your offer. And $3,500 to get into a house plus inspection. So what, $44,000 really to get into a house really isn't bad. And I know it's not no money in, but it's really not bad to get into a house at that price point. And then, like I said in the beginning, my wife and I used the Hometown Heroes program back in March of 2023, so March of this year. It was a wonderful experience for us getting to our first home. So my wife's a nurse, so prior to July, you had to be one of those typical hero categories, right? To qualify for it, and now it's anyone that's full time here in Florida. So we took advantage of it back in March. Um, our experience, we found a house that we really liked. Um, we found a house we liked. I kind of went through everything, made an offer, went through the inspection. Inspection pulled some things. Seller didn't want to pay for those, so we backed out. Got our earnest money back. And then we found a house we fell in love with. It was absolutely perfect. It's a low fixer upper that we could work on as we live here. Plenty of space for us and our two girls. And so we countered for them to pay all of our closing costs and or negotiated for them to pay all of our closing costs. Didn't quite work out, but they paid for about half of our closing costs, about 35. I can't remember if it's 35 or 5,000 of our closing costs they paid for. And then we put 3,500 in earnest money to get into this place with our offer. And then Hometown Heroes came in and put 5% down for the down payment. And then we owed our earnest money that we put in, covered the rest of the closing costs that we would have owed. And then I made a commission. So at the end of the day, we did get in with no money down, but that's just because I made a commission on the house, being a realtor. It's kind of a loophole, I guess. But for the rest of y'all, getting in with just your earnest money and your inspection and appraisal really isn't bad. It works out. You're home for virtually no cost to you, and it is a wonderful program. And I really hope that you're able to take advantage of that program. If there's any questions y'all have, please leave a comment down below. If you want to know anything else, please reach out to me. If you want to know how you can take advantage of this program for yourself, reach out to me. I can connect you to your lender or reach out to your lender. I would love to help get you into a first home and take advantage of this Hometown Heroes program. Thanks for watching.